Have you ever pondered what sparked the intellectual revolution known as the Renaissance, or who were the key players in its unfolding drama? Well, let's embark on a journey back to the 15th and 16th centuries, a time of awakening, a time of rebirth, a time we now call the Renaissance. This was an era of unprecedented intellectual and cultural dynamism, a time when human curiosity and creativity burst forth, shattering the medieval worldview and forever altering the course of history. Now imagine a bustling Dutch cityscape in the late 15th century, filled with merchants, scholars, and artists. Amidst this lively scene, a young boy named Desiderius Erasmus is beginning his journey of discovery. Born in Rotterdam in 1466, Erasmus is soon orphaned and sent to a monastic school where he immerses himself in the classics, becoming fluent in Latin and Greek. This early education sets the stage for his future contributions to humanistic thought, a cornerstone of the Renaissance. Erasmus's intellectual appetite is insatiable. As he grows, so does his reputation as a scholar. His name becomes synonymous with the Renaissance in the Netherlands and beyond. His works, filled with wit and wisdom, challenge the status quo and offer a fresh perspective on the world. They become a beacon of enlightenment in an era hungry for knowledge. Through his writings, Erasmus champions the values of humanism, emphasizing the importance of classical learning and critical thinking. He encourages a return to the original sources of Christian doctrine, setting the stage for a revolution in religious thought that would reverberate throughout Europe. Erasmus is also a man of peace. He is a moderate in an age of extremes, advocating for a more educated and morally upright clergy. Despite his critiques of the Church, he does not seek to overthrow it, but rather to reform it from within. Born Desiderius Erasmus, this Dutch humanist, theologian, and scholar would become a driving force in the Renaissance and early Reformation. His life and work bear testament to the transformative power of ideas and the enduring influence of a single brilliant mind. Imagine a world where folly is praised and the follies of humanity are humorously exposed. Welcome to the world of Erasmus's most famous work, the Praise of Folly. Dive into the mind of Desiderius Erasmus as he takes you on a satirical journey through the social and religious institutions of his time. In the Praise of Folly, Erasmus employs irony and wit to critique the practices and beliefs that had come to dominate society. Through the Voice of Folly, a character who embodies the absurd and ridiculous, Erasmus lays bare the inconsistencies and hypocrisies of the world around him. But the sharpness of Erasmus's satire does not spare the most sacred of institutions. He takes aim at the corruption within the Catholic Church and the clergy, using folly to expose the ostentatious practices and moral failings that had crept into the Church. Rather than revering the divine, Erasmus's clergy is shown to be more interested in worldly pleasures and personal gain. Yet, the humor and wit of the Praise of Folly is not merely for entertainment. Beneath the laughter and the jests, Erasmus is making a serious point. He calls out the folly of humanity, the foolishness of our actions, and the absurdity of our beliefs. In doing so, he seeks to provoke thought, to challenge assumptions, and to inspire change. Erasmus's critique is not just a rejection of the status quo, but also a call to return to the simple teachings of Christianity. He advocates for a faith that is sincere and humble, free from the trappings of power and wealth. He yearns for a church that is less about pomp and ceremony and more about love and compassion. In the end, the Praise of Folly is a mirror that Erasmus holds up to society, forcing us to confront our own follies. It is a call to self-reflection, to humility, and to wisdom. While witty and entertaining, the underlying message of the Praise of Folly called for a return to the simple teachings of Christianity. What does it mean to be a humanist during the Renaissance? Erasmus, with his emphasis on classical learning and critical thinking, provides an answer. As a pivotal figure in the Renaissance, Erasmus of Rotterdam was right at the heart of the humanist movement. The humanists of the Renaissance were scholars who studied the humanities, subjects like philosophy, history, and literature. They believed in the power of the past to illuminate the present, seeking wisdom from the classical civilizations of Greece and Rome. Erasmus, with his classical education and mastery of Latin and Greek, was a perfect embodiment of this movement. Erasmus's humanism was not just a scholarly pursuit, but a way of life. He believed that the purpose of education was to develop good and virtuous citizens. In his view, the study of classical literature and philosophy was not an end in itself, but a means to cultivate wisdom, moral virtue, and civic responsibility. One of the most significant contributions of Erasmus to humanistic thought was his addition of the Greek New Testament, known as the Novum Instrumentum. This was no ordinary scholarly work. Erasmus was not just translating the Bible, he was returning to the original sources, seeking a more authentic understanding of Christian doctrine. This was a radical departure from the norm, as the Church had long relied on the Latin Vulgate, a translation that had been in use for over 1,000 years. Erasmus's Novum Instrumentum was a game-changer. It provided a more accurate and authentic text for biblical study, challenging established interpretations and sparking intense debates. It was instrumental in the Reformation, a religious revolution that would shake the foundations of the Church and transform the religious landscape of Europe. Despite the controversy it generated, Erasmus's Novum Instrumentum was a testament to the humanist spirit, a relentless pursuit of truth, a deep reverence for the original sources, and a firm belief in the power of critical thinking. Erasmus's Novum Instrumentum played a crucial role in the Reformation, providing a more accurate and authentic text for biblical study. What if reform could occur without radicalism or violence? Erasmus believed it could. Erasmus's vision of reform was unlike the tumultuous upheavals that often come to mind. He wasn't a fan of upheaval, but rather, he championed a peaceful intellectual revolution. His approach was one of moderation, a middle path of sorts, that aimed at rectifying the ecclesiastical system from within. Erasmus held a deep respect for the Church. His critique was not against the institution itself, but rather against the corruption and ostentation that had seeped into its fabric. He believed that the clergy, the very backbone of the Church, needed to be better educated and morally upright. He asserted that a learned clergy, well-versed in classical languages and biblical texts, could lead the Church back to its original Christian teachings and away from the ostentatious practices that had crept in over time. But how does one bring about such a reform? For Erasmus, the answer lay in education. He believed that by fostering critical thinking and a deep understanding of the original sources of Christian doctrine, the Church could be gently nudged back onto the right path. His emphasis on education wasn't limited to the clergy, though. He extended this belief to society at large, advocating for a populace enlightened by knowledge and wisdom. Now, you might wonder, if Erasmus was such a moderate reformer, how did his ideas end up fueling the Protestant Reformation? Well, Erasmus's works, especially his edition of the Greek New Testament known as the Novum Instrumentum, provided scholars with a more accurate and authentic text for biblical study. This inadvertently created an intellectual climate ripe for questioning the prevailing religious norms. His critiques, while moderate, echoed in the minds of those who would eventually stand at the forefront of the Protestant Reformation. Erasmus was not a radical reformer, yet his ideas inadvertently paved the way for the Protestant Reformation. His peaceful and intellectual approach to reform underscores the power of education and critical thinking, a testament to the enduring legacy of this Renaissance mastermind. Erasmus's influence extended beyond theology, reaching into linguistics, history, and education. His legacy continues to resonate today. An insatiable curiosity drove this Renaissance scholar to explore a variety of subjects, his keen intellect illuminating new perspectives and insights in each field he delved into. In the realm of linguistics, Erasmus was a pioneer. His fluency in Latin and Greek allowed him to engage with classical texts in their original language, paving the way for a more nuanced understanding of these works. His contributions to the field were significant, his translations playing a key role in making these texts accessible to a broader audience. Erasmus was also deeply invested in history, his works reflecting his profound understanding of the cultural, social, and political contexts of his time. His writings provide a window into the 16th century, offering invaluable insights into the intellectual climate that shaped the Renaissance and the early Reformation. Education, too, was a passion for Erasmus. He firmly believed in the power of knowledge and the importance of critical thinking, advocating for a more comprehensive and inclusive educational system. His ideas on education resonated widely, echoing through the halls of academia and influencing educational reforms for centuries to come. But Erasmus was not a solitary scholar. His correspondence with other intellectuals of his era reveals a vibrant and dynamic intellectual network. These exchanges of ideas and insights were instrumental in shaping Erasmus's work, their influence evident in the depth and breadth of his scholarship. Yet the true magnitude of Erasmus's impact lies in his enduring legacy. His humanistic ideals and his commitment to intellectual freedom continue to inspire scholars and thinkers around the world. His influential translations and insightful critiques have shaped our understanding of the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the world of classical antiquity. Erasmus of Rotterdam remains a pivotal figure in the Renaissance. His contributions to the humanist movement and his influence on the Reformation marking him as a central figure in the intellectual landscape of the 16th century.